Everyone, and just to say that I'm pleased to be here this afternoon. First and foremost, I'd like to introduce myself to those of you who may not know. My name is Robin Delaronde, and I am the Director of Education for the Kahnawake education system. I would like to provide everyone here today some information regarding our school opening for the 2021-2022 school year. And I do hope that for those of you who may have missed it, you can please refer to our KEC website and our Facebook social media page, where you can find further information about the details that I'm about to explain regarding school openings. So let me begin. I'll start by just getting clarity and provide the info in terms of what parents can expect as we begin to embark upon school openings for our 3 schools within the Kahnawake education system, which are Kateri School, Kahnawà, and Kahnawake Survival School. First of all, the doors are open to all our students, and we made that decision to make sure that we could accommodate and service our students, because for us it was really important that all our students have access to come back to our schools. And we wanted to really make sure that our staff and our students are safe. So I'm going to explain some of the measures that we have put in place and have also added to previous measures that we put in place to protect the health and well-being of our students. I really do want to have parents, know that upon entering the doors, we have made put measures in place that will limit the risk of students contracting COVID-19, but as you know, we are limiting the risk. We cannot guarantee that we can totally eliminate contracting of COVID-19, but these are measures that we feel very confident that are measures that are there that are stronger than what other schools have implemented so far. So we will be beginning with an orientation. If you have not already received that information from your respective schools that your child's enrolled in, you should be receiving information first. But in order to have you feel somewhat at ease about what your child will be entering into, I'd like to provide you with the following information. We have decided as of last year, similar to last year, that between grades 1 and 11, masking will be required. What that means in particular is that when your child enters the school, they will be provided with 2 masks daily. All areas where students are in transition, whether it is in the hallway, whether it is going to the washroom, getting up, going amongst their classroom, they will require to put their masks on. When they are seated and safely distanced from their peers or teachers, they will be able to take their mask off. The same for when they were going to be eating in their classrooms, they will be taking their mask off to eat. The masking requirement is also there for all staff, and they too are provided with masks daily. And the same measures apply in terms of transition periods and so on. One of the other areas and measures we put in place last year that we're going to continue to do is the daily health monitoring checks. Now, all of our staff are required to do that daily. And for parents, we want to remind you, we know that we encountered some challenges with this last year and having more children come into our classroom. Some of you may be new to entering the school. Some of you may have homeschooled your child last year, and it may be a new process for you. But please keep a space and time in your daily schedule in the morning to make sure that you speak to your child, that you talk about their wellness, what they're feeling, and that you send in and fill out that daily health monitoring check for your child. If your child is not feeling well and is exhibiting one of the symptoms on there, please follow the instructions, which is, of course, to contact local public health for a screening. And please do not send your child to school that day. So once again, it's really important. We need your support to be able to open our doors in as safe a manner that we can. We know that from last year there were challenges in terms of filling out the form, and we know that if need be, parents, we will set up sessions to help you maneuver through that process, because sometimes it can be confusing. The other measure that we have and will be implementing is something we did last year. And we're going to continue that to have children remain in their bubbles, in their class bubbles. Our student-teacher ratio is relatively small compared to outside schools and range at approximately 15 in a class. And depending on the class size, it could be more or it could be less. But there will be bubbles. We do understand and know that there's going to be instances where within the school bubbles may need to come together, whether it's particularly at the high school. We have electives, we have exploratories, and we will be allowing bubbles to come together in different capacities, but there will be careful logging that is going to be done in those circumstances. Logging that will indicate who was in those mixed bubbles, the duration of time they were there, and so forth, so that if the need be for any contact tracing is required, we can quickly have access to that and hopefully eliminate any spread, large outbreaks. Also, we're going to continue to have the social distancing in the classroom to make sure that students are spaced, and in areas that we can't, making sure that we have plexiglass and other measures that will protect the children and the adults in those circumstances. We also are going to make sure that now that we have a lot of children coming in, that we have different entrances into our buildings, so there's not a lot of congestion. We are also retaining measures we had in terms of hygiene, cleaning within our building. We've retained the extra resources for maintenance to come in and clean our buildings quite frequently. And in addition to that, we have secured the health and safety monitors at each of our 3 schools, whose responsibility it is to walk around, ensure that the measures we have put in place are working, to keep track of the logs, the daily health monitoring, and support should there be any circumstances where we do need to isolate staff or students. I really want to stress that we know it can be challenging if a log wasn't filled in, you're called as a parent. We really need your support. The safety monitors and administration are not trying to do anything to make your life difficult. Their first priority is to make sure all children are safe. So please understand that if we have to make calls, reminders, or have to put in any additional measures, what we're really doing is making sure our schools are safe. This isn't directly coming from MCK Transportation, but we are supporting measures and guidelines the MCK Transportation Department in terms of busing will be putting in place and relaying, and that one I believe is on their page as well, the MCK website, about either the busing routes and so on. But what we're supporting and encouraging is that if as a parent you have that ability to drive your child in, please do so. This would really help in terms of overall safety and the capacity on the buses as well. One of the new measures that we implemented this year as an extra level of support on protection for your children is that we are required that all our staff show proof of 2 COVID vaccinations. And if staff have not provided it and do not want to provide proof of vaccination and have chosen not to be vaccinated, what they will be doing and will be complying is with 3 times a week screenings of a gargle test, just to really ensure for their safety as well, because I know they would definitely want to make sure that the schools that they're coming into are protected, just like every one of us does not want to be bringing in any COVID and spreading that. This is an extra level of protection for them and for your children. So we will be coordinating that with local public health. So there is an additional level of protection for your children and for our staff in the building. The other information to relay today is that I know there's going to be particulars about, after school. There's going to be particulars regarding lunch programs at your school, but that's information that each respective school, based on their resources, based on their space they have, will be giving you more information about those particulars, and we'll be sending that out to you shortly as well. So please rest assured that those will be more specific to schools. The other, so first of all, looking back at all these measures, what we're saying and what I'm saying is that our schools, we are making them safe for your children. We are putting in measures. We're really encouraging you, because when we look back at the data that we had last year, the feedback from the children, from the staff, from parents, the feedback we had, and I'm sure you know that as parents, is that our children, they did suffer. This really did impact them more so on a social, emotional level and physical development. We know that, of course, academics is a high priority in all our schools, but what this COVID pandemic did last year is really heighten the importance that schools play in bringing about an environment for our children to thrive socially, emotionally, and that need to be amongst their peers. And in the feedback we received is, yes, it definitely was highlighted that they really missed that in-person teaching. And we really want to make sure that, our children have that opportunity to come, and that as parents, that we have limited the level of risk if you make that choice to send your child to school. So why I'm saying choice is that we also did hear and did get feedback and got information that in the coming months, we don't know for how long, whether it'll be the whole school year, but we are opening a home learning program to elementary school students only. In June, we did send out a communique to community, to parents, stating that we were only going to be offering the home learning program to students and families who had children who had a medical exemption. Since that time, of course, you're all quite aware that, COVID numbers are rising. We are, anticipating and concerned about what could happen. And therefore, based on that, we are continuing the home learning program for those who wish to partake in that. We did send that communication out as well. And the deadline for parents to decide whether they want to opt into that program is going to be this Thursday, tomorrow at 3 o'clock. It is really important that you indicate and contact your school and inform them that you are going to be inputting your child, would like to register your child for that program. It is also really important that if you were a parent who did have your child in the home learning program last year, there's a lot of things that we learned as of last year. This was new for all of us, new for us as educators, parents, our education system, that there are different things, different program requirements that will differ this year. So do not expect that the program as it was delivered last year is going to be the exact program delivery as it was last year. There will be different changes and guidelines. There will be more expectations for weekly meetings and monitoring. And of course, the meetings will be in as safe a manner, protecting social distancing, masking, so that we can closely support parents and the children. So more information will come. It'll differ in terms of the program delivery based on the fact that if we do get respondents, say we have 5 parents or 5 children in the program, our delivery of a program would differ than if our responses come back and say, well, we have 50. So we're waiting for those numbers to give you more information, and also to expect that a delay will be involved in terms of the start date if you choose home learning program, in terms of us to get information, meet with you, and so forth. So that's important to note too for parents. Once again, we are encouraging you, bring your children back to school, and we will work with you to continue to get more information out as things progress. I'm just trying to see any other last minute information to provide you, but I think that, I have given, quite a bit of info. I would say that I just want to end by saying that the message in terms of our school has begun. Our school year with our staff started. And by starting, our direction, our vision is that we're going to keep on target. We can't forget what our purpose is in terms of why we're in the schools, why we're there, and that's for your children. That's for learning, that's for student success, and we're all going to try and focus on that as being our top priority. We know that there'll be other issues there in terms of COVID, in terms of possible closures, information out to parent, but our goal is to keep moving forward, to address that and then move forward with what we need to do. So as for parents, again, the deadline is for home learning at 3 p.m. tomorrow to indicate your intention. We are welcoming our students back on site with orientation beginning September 1st. And the other information is in terms of parents, please having patience, making sure you set that time for the health check. Make sure that you're monitoring these things so that together we can make sure that our schools are have limited risk for our children as they come back in and for our staff. So I'd just like to end with that. Probably be here with further updates throughout the year, and do want to say that I'm excited about a school start. I'm excited and definitely want to see our children back in school, and wish everyone the best. And now, as I end mine, I'm just going to introduce Alana Kane from Kahnawake Community Service, who's here as well to deliver a message to you community members. Nyawagowa.
Nyawa, Robin. So, as Robin introduced me, my name is Alana Kane, and I'm the manager of mental wellness and addictions at KSCS. So today, though, I'm here on behalf of the Mental Wellness Action Team. And so it's something that I've talked about a little bit before on the times that I've come on here, but today it's here to actually present. I'm here to actually present the Mental Wellness Action Team, kind of how it came about and what we've been up to and what the community can expect moving forward from the Action Team. And so a little bit of background is that when there's an emergency, and let's face it, the global pandemic is quite an emergency that we've seen. And so when there's an emergency such as that one, KSCS is responsible for the psychosocial support for the community. And so when the state of emergency was declared, of course, KSCS stepped up to their role in providing psychosocial support. So, the regular services were all available, as well as some other additional services that needed to be put into place. So the only thing is we quickly noticed, as did everyone else, I believe, what started out as a health, a physical health crisis and pandemic quickly became clear that it was also a mental health pandemic and a mental health crisis. We saw huge increase in requests for services, psychosocial services at KSCS. And then we recognized that, I don't think we can do this alone. And so we kind of readjusted and took a community-focused approach. And so we brought together a lot of collaborations, local organizations, and said, let's get together, let's create this mental health action team to be sure that we are addressing the needs of the community when it comes to that area. It was kind of designed to be a bit of a branch, so to speak, an arm of the original task force that was doing such an amazing job of keeping us all healthy and safe and up to date. But them too, correct, can't do everything alone. And so the idea of this mental health action team was that it was going to actually, help in that area. So some of the members of the mental health action team, and just keep in mind that this is a bit of a fluid team, members come in and kind of go out, but some of the core members have been from the Mohawk Council of Kahnawà, as well as KSCS, the Cattery Memorial Hospital Center, the Fire Brigade, the Step-by-Step Childhood Learning Center, the Peacekeepers, the Kahnawake Education Center, Youth Center, Dewa Duni Zakta, and as well as members of the Collective Impact. And so we all got together and started by developing an inventory of things that had already been done, services that were being provided, programs that had been developed to address some of the needs in the community. So looked at an inventory, as well as looked at the gaps. Where are the areas where maybe we weren't as strong, or where things weren't being considered as much? And so in doing so, we came up with a really amazing inventory and recognized that a lot of things had been put in place actually, but that there were gaps. We also recognized quickly early on that there was also key groups of community members who were perhaps particularly vulnerable, or who maybe had been affected in different ways by the pandemic. And so we can think of one of the groups is employees. A lot of people, either were out of work now because some of their areas of employment were shut down, or we think of even employees of local organizations that quickly had to react and work from home, and just how much of an impact that had on our community members. And so employees was one of the groups, as well as youth. As as we just heard from Robin, it was quite a year and an adjustment for our youth and children, from online learning to not being able to spend time with friends. If we think of, kind of when we were young, just how important friends, hobbies, sport, art, all those areas that we spend so much time in when we're young, developing and, learning who we are, all of a sudden didn't necessarily have access to those. And so it was a really big adjustment for them, and a lot of them ended up struggling quite a bit. And then thirdly, we have kind of a less defined group, but of vulnerable, more so, community members. So if we think of our elders and just how much they were impacted by this pandemic, if we think of our community members who struggle with persistent mental health disorders or situations. If we think of our community members living with disabilities, so all of those different populations, we noticed that there could be gaps in services and programs and considerations for them, and so we definitely wanted to address those gaps. And so the action team ended up kind of breaking out into smaller groups to address those specific key areas and key populations. And so today I'm part of the kind of smaller group of employees looking at the effects on employees. And part of the reason for that is obviously as a manager at KSCS, a lot of the the staff and the colleagues that I have are frontline workers, and we know that that has been a very difficult job, rewarding during this pandemic, but difficult for sure. And so I especially wanted to, make sure that that we're taking care of our frontline workers. And so that's why I'm here today to talk a little bit more specifically about the employee group and let the community know what we're doing with that regard. So if we think of now, September is around the corner, and there might be some, local businesses, employers, local organizations who are considering a return to work safely, of course, following all the measures, but just kind of, starting to think about what that's going to look like. And so our smaller group of, looking at employees, we came together and created this list or document that are actually considerations for employers on a safe return to work for your employees. This pandemic, of course, as we know and have said before, has actually been a collective trauma for most of us, for if not all of us. And we can't forget that when we're considering things like a return to work, and that not every employee has the same situation and the same considerations. And if we can just imagine, if you're an employer and you have, say, 20 employees, a blanket approach to a return to work is probably not the best idea if we're thinking of just saying, okay, September 12th, you're in, you've been home for a year and a half, but this is, and we got to make sure that we're doing things in a way that is respectful of those people's situations. And so we have, like I said, a list of considerations of how you can go about that if you're an employer, as well as we've initiated some trauma-informed training for the Executive Directors Committee to make sure that all local organizations are on board and understand the impact that the global pandemic can have had on their staff and their employees. We've suggested things in that, I'll just give one example, say, of one of the considerations is to create safe spaces for your employees to be able to share what it's been like for the past year and a half and some of their concerns. So if we think of sharing circles, just for people to be able to have a space to talk about how they're feeling, their concerns, and how we might be able to address them as employers. With that regard, you'll see that as an employer, if you receive the document, one of the things is that, you don't need to be a professional to run a sharing circle for your staff. It's really just providing a safe space for folks to be able to share and get off their chest whatever they might be feeling so that they can return to work feeling, better and more reassured. So the other groups, like I mentioned, of youth, the youth group and the, special populations or particularly vulnerable populations, other representatives will be coming on similar to this to explain a little bit more about what their group is looking at and how they might try to address some of the, the issues that are coming up or the gaps in services. And so you can expect that in the next, coming weeks. And as a larger group, of course, we are continuing to identify gaps, meet regularly, make sure that everyone feels included and and supported in this recovery phase as we keep moving forward. So that is kind of what we what we wanted to share with the community, just so that you have an idea of what we're up to and what can be expected. Please note that we're always looking, like I said, it's a little bit of a fluid action team, and so please note that we're always looking for new members. So if you're an employer, if you're a business owner, if you're working in a local org, if you're perhaps you're a parent rep on a committee or something like that, and you feel like your voice perhaps is not being represented and you'd like to know more about the action team and perhaps how you could participate, please don't hesitate. Or like I said, it's not a closed group. We're always looking for new members. And so the contact for that and for anything else, so if you heard something today and you want more information, if you're an employer and you want, again, more information, you can contact Cheryl Zachary, who is the Director of Family Preservation at KSCS. You can just call our general number of 450-632-6880 and ask for Cheryl Zachary. And or you can also email Cheryl at Cheryl Z or Z, I guess it depends what you, at KSCS.ca. So I want to thank you for this opportunity to be able to share what we've been working on. And again, any questions whatsoever, never hesitate. And Kahnawake for always allowing us to come on and give some more information. So stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Anna.